welcome to another episode of the Sparring Sessions podcast. My name's Dax. This episode, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night, Cejudo versus Yadong, giving some predictions. But first, I want to bring in my co-host of the week, special guest star, Matt. How you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing well. You know, I'm not going to dox you this episode, but it's got to be a little snowy, a little colder than I am up there. How's the weather?
It's definitely cold this week. They were calling for more snow, but I think it's going to miss us. It's staying in the so-called South since I'm the Midwest.
Yeah.
Of Kentucky.
I'll take it, 45. I know a thing or two about the Midwest. I'll take the spring here, whatever you want to call it. But we're not here to talk about weather. If we did, that'd be a horrible podcast, frankly. I don't know why anybody would subscribe or watch. Maybe a weatherman or two, but no, we're here to talk UFC Fight Night, Cejudo versus Yadong, going down this Saturday. But first, as always, we're going to recap last week. UFC Fight Night, Rodrigues versus Cannonier, went down to the Apex. Not the greatest card. You got some cool finishes. Main event was a pretty good fight. What was your highlight from last week's card, Matt?
Last week's card, I don't know. The non-highlight was, I believe, both of us picking RoboCop to apparently one round and gas himself.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to call. We actually had, I think we tied on all of our picks. We both went 10-2 last week.
10-2.
With RoboCop being one that burned me, and then I did choose against Angela Split Decision Hill.
Split Decision Hill.
I probably would say my favorite, easiest call was Walter Walker. I wish I would have. I had him as a parlay piece, and I wish I would have jumped on that sub. That was too easy.
Too easy. If you watched last week's episode, Tristan threw it out of the betting podcast. Tristan threw it out. We had some people in the comments on our podcast Instagram. One of our friends, Jocks, mentioned, I believe he said plus 500. I was thinking a different number. But yeah, 10-2 as well. Who did I pick? I picked Vieira, said Petrosky. I think on the podcast I picked Petrosky, but in retrospect, I usually go with a favorite unless somebody gives me a reason to. So
yeah. I think that was a line move play on that one because the line actually went. Petrosky's line was going the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We tied picks. We both did pretty well. You're a betting man yourself. I'm not going to give my betting recap, but
I personally, everybody's unit size was different. I was actually up 10 units.
10 units.
I think I did. I'm gonna pull it up here in just a second, but I think I did. I might have put in a double chance bet on him because of heavyweights for Walker. Yeah. So the line was a little better that way, but it wasn't as good as the straight sub.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you'll hear some more this Friday on my recap of last week betting wise. Up and down. That's all I'm going to say. RoboCop was tough. We're big fans of RoboCop on this show, but
he was a piece for me too. But I did get the Petrosky line and the Sadikov line.
Love the Sadikov line. But
interesting stoppage.
Just one of those things gets lost in translation. I'll take it. I'll take the plus 190. I think I had on him.
Yeah, it was a good line too. And I think, the translation thing is one thing, but for these fighters, I think you need to be very clear that you want to fight.
Yeah.
Don't give a translation a reason if you can do that. That's tough. I get it, but I think that's how it went.
It's how it goes. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the face or whatever that weird 100-year-old expression is.
Beat a dead horse.
Sure, that whatever it is, I'm not going to. Not that one. But yeah, so that was last week. This upcoming week is what you're here to listen to. Hopefully, I mean, if you just like the recaps, sorry we didn't do longer on the recap, but UFC Fight Night, Yadong versus Cejudo, going down in Seattle in the, I have the name, Climate Pledge Arena. Seattle, Washington, 6 p.m. Eastern main card, prelim card. 12 fights. 6 out of the 24 fighters are ranked. Still more than UFC 312. Only had 4 ranked fighters. I will never let that one go. We've had a number of, just to peek behind the curtain a little bit, we're recording this here on Tuesday. We've had a number of changes to this card. Even I'll read off the canceled fights technically. So Caitlin Vera and Macy Chiasson is off. Rob Font and Dominic Cruz is off. Dominic Cruz retired. Best of wishes. Best of luck for him in his recovery. Nick Klein is in for Antonio Ciccoli versus Mansur Abdul-Malik. Curtis Blades and Kuniev got moved to UFC 313. I believe it got moved. It's still on.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Ray Goff was in for Dulatov, which I was hoping to see him debut against Fugit, and then that fight just got canceled.
Yeah.
And then we were supposed to they announced Michael Chiesa on this card. As of right now, he doesn't have a fight. He was one of those TBDs for 2 months, but they couldn't find anybody. And then Garcia and Barbosa, Steve Garcia and Edson Barbosa, it was a fight I was most looking forward to.
That would have been a good one, yeah.
Probably one of the best fights you could have had at featherweight outside the ranked guys. So a number of changes to the card. We got a fight breaking today, mere hours before we're recording. Still got lines for it, which I'll take. But that, and then we've had a number of short notice replacements and short notice fights for both fighters on the card now. So we're at 12. Who knows if it's going to stay?
Yeah.
Any fight besides Garcia and Barbosa? Any fight you were really itching to see that we don't get on this card now?
I think the two that you said, that fight, the Barbosa and Steve Garcia, would have been a great, stand-up match.
Yeah.
And then the newcomer that's not
Dulatov.
Dulatov. I think that would have been the good ones to see that we are not getting anymore.
Yeah, I would have loved it. What would you, kind of as an introduction, what would you rate this card out of, I'm not going to give you a rating. Can be letters, numbers, however you want. What would you rate it?
This card overall, as a fight fan, I like fights every week, so I'm okay with them keep spitting them out. Those 2 or 3 week lulls, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
This is definitely probably, there's a couple of nice up and comers here and there, especially on the main card, but I'll have to say a C-.
C-?
Probably. And
I'm somewhere around C+, B-.
Yeah.
Getting out of the Apex bumps it up at least.
You're right. A crowd is nice.
The crowd is nice. If some of the fights go the way I hope they do, it'll be nice. But I guess that's what we're here to talk about. That's what we're here to break down. So without further ado, let's jump into the first fight. Light heavyweight. Modestas Bukauskas in his second stint in the UFC, -298 versus Raffael Cerqueira, +240. You might remember Cerqueira made his debut against Ibo Aslan, also on this card, and got standing TKO'd in 40 seconds, I want to say. It was
it was early first round, for sure.
50 unanswered strikes from Ibo Aslan. It was crazy. Bukauskas has looked a lot better in his return, won 3 out of 4. Matt, whenever there's a guest, I like to let the guest kind of start off. I should preface, I have a betting show coming out this Friday. I'm going to make some comments on lines. I'm not going to say my bets here or anything, but being a betting man yourself and not being on the show, you are more than welcome to. So I got to ask you first, who you picking? And then for every fight from here on out, you plan on making any wagers here?
So this fight, I'll go ahead and jump right into my pick. I am going to go with Bukauskas. The line is a bit juicy. So, betting show will cover more of that. He could be a parlay piece. Do you fully want to trust him? That's the tough part. But yeah, he's definitely looked a lot better. I think his stand up is a bit more crisp than Cerqueira's in this one, so that's why I'm picking him to at least just win the fight. I think if he tries to shoot, I think he's also got a decent defense for some of that. My pick will be Bukauskas for sure. As for any betting line, you might look at the TKO props, but that'll be it. He probably would be a decision, and that's going to be my official pick, Bukauskas by decision.
Some fights you just don't bet. I do not bet Modestas Bukauskas fights at all. He's burned me many times now. I'm picking him. Line's a little odd. Bukauskas, he's not the most durable, and Cerqueira's also not the most durable, so it's kind of one of those just unranked light heavyweight fights. Who knows what will happen? Actually, you know what? Ranked light heavyweight fights, who knows what will happen there either. Yeah. I don't, not much to talk about here. Kind of a weird one. Moving up in the card, down in weight to middleweight, Nursulton Ruziboev, minus 278 versus Eric McConico, plus 225. Ruziboev, this is his return to middleweight. I'm not sure if it's a permanent move or just because of the short notice aspect of it. But I should mention Ruziboev and McConico, both short notice. This fight was made, I want to say a week ago or so, something like that. Ruziboev coming back up after the loss to Joaquin Buckley at welterweight. He has looked pretty good in the UFC. McConico was scheduled last weekend at middleweight for a championship fight at Tough Enough, a regional promotion. He got the call up. Listen to our prospect watch show for a little more information. You know, our friend Evan runs a page and he knows a lot more about these guys than us. He was a bit surprised at this one at the call up. You know, not the brightest prospect. Kind of just he thought a little bit of a body. And it's my turn. I'm gonna go Ruziboev. I think that he's just kind of gonna handle McConico. McConico's not phenomenal, and he has some bad. He has some TKO losses a few years ago. Not the best. I mean, hasn't fought the best competition either. Short notice debut in front of a crowd. This screams Ruziboev. Yeah, weird fight as well. Are you with me?
Yeah, I am. I am definitely on Ruziboev. Is it going to be a stand-up decision again, or is he going to get the finish? That's a tough one. I think the move up for him is decent. He's going to carry that speed without having to cut as much because his frame, I mean, he's 6'5". Yeah. 6'5", and McConico is only 6 foot. So, I mean, he's still probably going to look like the bigger guy, and he's going to have the speed because didn't McConico also fight at light heavyweight some too?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I'm on Ruziboev there as well. Again, I think he's going to get it done by decision or TKO. I'm not going to really make a point on that. That can stick for the betting show, but I'll definitely pick Ruziboev on this one too.
I'm with you. Well, I already said I'm with you, yeah, but I agree with everything you said there. Another one of these weird fights that, who knows what's going to happen. I'm not going to spend too long. Short notice for both too. It's kind of I don't want to say throwaway fight, but kind of.
It's a filler fight.
Filler fight. There we go. This one, I don't know. A little bit less of a filler fight, at least because of somebody who's involved. Yeah. Catchweight 175. This is the one we were talking about. Extremely short notice. 5 days out from the card? Neither guy was scheduled. So short notice for both. And a debuting fighter. I'm going to start with Veretennikov, welterweight fighter. So he's technically coming up, but, this is pretty much just a welterweight fight for him as well. Mm-hmm. Veretennikov 0-1 in the UFC. He went 0-1 on the Contender Series. He lost in the UFC to Danny Barlow, Contender Series to Michael Morales, both decisions. So decent losses. I mean, Both guys are good. And he is fighting Austin Vanderford, I'd say the A side of this fight, absolutely. Vanderford is a former Bellator title champion. No, not champion. Title challenger at middleweight. He got beat by Gegard Mousasi. Lost another fight in Bellator. Went to LFA. Got a quick win against, my DoorDash driver or my mailman or somebody. And he's signed for this. He's been a middleweight fighter, so he's coming down. And the elephant in the room, I'm not quite sure why he's still fighting. His wife, famed, former UFC fighter and OnlyFans star Paige Van Zandt, has got to be raking in, millions of dollars by now. So this is an interesting one. Maybe she'll be in his corner, and that's kind of why they signed him. But odds are a little odd for me. So it's your turn. I'm gonna prompt you with this. Would you have thought that these would be the odds, kind of, as you process that this fight was even happening today?
So can you remind me what those odds were again?
Right here at the bottom of the screen, minus 190 for Veretennikov, plus 160 for Vanderford.
Yeah, that is tricky. I don't know. I almost. So I'll go ahead and say my pick. I'm going to pick Veretennikov here. The reason why I guess, the experience on both sides is there, but I agree that, you mentioned some of Veretenikov's losses, recent losses being, who was it? Michael Morales. Yeah. Morales, to me, that's, we know he's a dark horse in division to kind of go far here. And that doesn't, that helps him, I think. And then his last loss last year was Danny Barlow. And actually, Danny Barlow has a fight, I think, on the next card.
Oh, yeah.
I remember correctly. And I watched that fight again actually today just to kind of see, what went wrong there. And it was actually a really close fight. And I just pulled it up. He went by a split decision. So I think he's got the talent. He's got the stand up. I'm going to go with Veretennikov here. Interesting.
I respect it. He's got some good wins. Anthony Ivy, S.Ray Reese, not DeMarcus Jackson. Never mind. I was mixing him up with somebody else. That being said, you mentioned those two decisions. He didn't look phenomenal in them. I believe it was the Barlow fight that he just kind of looked frozen or maybe it was a Morales fight. One of the two, maybe both. He just kind of looked frozen for the entire fight. He's got some power. He hurt, I believe, both of his opponents at times, but I can't just, I can't trust him to pull the trigger. Vanderford, he's been KO'd twice in the first round now. That's how he loses. But I'm going to go with Vanderford because I don't really trust Veretenikov's takedown defense or ground game at all. He was taken down multiple times by Danny Barlow and once by Michael Morales, famed takedown artists. I'm just kidding. Yeah. They're both stand-up guys,
Yeah, that's true.
And he's taken down the best. What is his best wins? This is, you and I both have not had that much time to actually break down this fight. So it's, excuse my tapologing a little bit, but Fabian Edwards, multiple time Bellator title champion. Okay, maybe that's about it. Cody Jones, I guess. Fabian Edwards. Adam Fugit. Interesting. I didn't even know that one. I think that he's had much better competition and proven himself against much better competition, and the path is just right there for me. So, surprised at the odds. Maybe we talk about it on the betting episode. I'm still making up my mind on that one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where the line goes on that one.
Yeah,
and how it goes.
Indeed. Another one. The line surprised me at bantamweight. Ricky Simón plus 235 versus Javid Basharat minus 290. This one is quite the interesting one. Two guys on kind of differing, we call it opposite sides of the train tracks. Simón's lost 3 straight against really, really, really good competition. I don't know if I don't think Lock Dog is ranked, but he's pretty close, if not. So 3 top 15-ish guys. And Javid Basharat just lost to
Zahabi.
Ayman Zahabi, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of one that surprised me a little bit. Simón has some good wins. So does Basharat, but he also has that recent loss. The kind of question here is, how much does Simón have left? Does he still have it? Were those flukes? Were those just great guys? And he's, not quite there. I'm going to go Basharat. Minus 290 surprised me for a guy coming off a loss, as well as, we haven't really seen him that tested that much besides as a hobby fight. So, yeah, I'll go Basharat. What about you?
So yeah, this is a fight I kind of had marked. I was definitely a bit torn as well on, the line play. You see the line, but what is it really? And the Simón's last 3 fights were against really good people. But I agree with you. I don't know what he's got left. And if you look, what does he even have more to offer that you don't know about a Ricky Simón fight?
Yeah.
He's going to shoot the takedown, looping punches to try to damage his way into those takedowns. I agree. Actually, I'm picking Basharat as well here, mainly because I think he can at least stop those and outpoint them. That's kind of how I see this fight going.
Yeah, outpointing definitely. He's a smart fighter, and you'd think he'd be able to kind of come in with a good enough game plan, but let's see if he can execute it.
Yeah, I think you get these, Basharat brothers and these Bonfim brothers that start really hot in the company, and I think it rises their name. So, I think what wasn't his earlier lines against these other fights. I think his line against Zahabi and some of these other ones were massive. Probably
he was at minus 800 against Zahabi or something like that.
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, that's how it goes.
But definitely, I'm on the same side as you on this one for sure.
Yeah. Another one coming up next. Odds are surprising me on this one as well. Middleweight Mansur Abdul-Malik minus 1050 versus Nick Klein plus 600. Like I mentioned earlier, it was a short notice debut for Nick Klein. He's coming off a submission win on the Contender Series. Cougs mentioned a little bit about that fight, but Nick Klein, kind of his nickname's Blue Collar. He's kind of like a unassuming prospect coming in here against probably the brightest prospect on the card.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, if not the brightest prospect on the card. Abdul-Malik, you look at the odds, minus 1050. Malik, also a Contender Series guy, debuted, beat up poor Dusko Todorovic, the target practice of middleweight, one might say. Poor Dusko. And just a crazy big line for a guy who has potential, but relatively only one fight in the UFC, relatively unproven. It's your turn. I got to ask about the line. What do you think?
That line, it's to the point where it's untouchable. I am going to pick for the pick show Malik to win. So he's going to be my official pick. That line, like I said, you can't really touch, but I do think he's going to get in there, and I think he's going to get it done. I think it's going to be a TKO KO finish for him. You can play around with those kind of lines for the bet show if you'd like to look into some of those. But I think, like you said, he is the prospect to look for here. He's a pretty large dude in general, and he's got a heck of a reach, 80-inch reach. I think he's going to come out striking here. So, yeah,
I'm with you. Line's not touchable. I'm looking right now. This is a sports book I've never heard of. So take it as you will. But early lines, I'm seeing minus 200, minus 220 for Malik by TKO. So this might just be one of those fights we won't bet on, but I'll
You're
take a
gonna have to
pick.
go around. Yeah, you're gonna have to pick a round at that point.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
to
it
get
should be
really good.
exciting.
Yeah.
2 finishers at least. Yeah, not much more to say about this one. This next fight, though, I think it will be pretty interesting. Andre Fili, featherweights, Andre Fili -120 against Ezekiel Costa +100. 2 vets. I think it's fair to call Costa a vet at this point. He's had, what,
Yeah.
7 fights in the UFC, something like that.
He's been around.
Hard to know those names.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he's been pretty up and both these guys have been pretty up and down. Costa maybe a little bit more recently. Fili, though, better over the stretch of his career. He's been had a lot more time. My notes, I don't have much for this fight because both guys are just like they're not the same, but they're the same. I put down messy fight between vets, and then my pick, which I'm gonna go first. I think I'm just gonna go Costa because I think he can finish Fili, and I think this honestly is gonna be a split decision. I don't have any idea who wins. I'm gonna go Costa though because I think maybe he's a bit younger, right? Definitely in like fight mileage, he is.
Yeah, definitely at that point. Yeah.
I mean, not that far. 24-11 versus 21-7. He is 6 years younger. I mean, they're about the same size. I guess I'll go Costa. Maybe he wrestles. Maybe he gets a sub. What do you think?
So this is a fight that the line is basically a pick 'em, and you look at it, and I do agree with you. They kind of resemble the same. I wouldn't say even fighting style, but the same kind of career so far.
Yeah.
I look back at Andre Touchy Fili's career, and he's been in the UFC for I think over 10 years. I can't even remember. And I look back and to see who he's fought, and it's been very mixed competition. Kind of like Costa a little bit here too. One trend, if you look through the record of Touchy Fili here, he's basically a win-loss kind of a guy.
Yeah.
He had a little stretch where he might have got 2 wins, but then he had 2 losses. But beyond that, if you look at everything, if you want to get really, kind of how they do it in the locker room, you've got your good luck charms, the trend is for him to lose this fight. If you just look at his record. Now, I know that's a really weird way of doing it, but I just don't know what he's got left to really do or prove here. He's had some very decent fights where he gets a sub, and then he's been slept cold before, which I can't remember which fight that one was.
The Dan Ige one probably is what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was one where he was completely out, for a little while there.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick Costa, and I do agree on the decision here too.
Yeah. Would it change your feelings if I told you Costa's last 5 fights, win, loss, win, loss, win?
So somebody's got to lose.
Or no, they don't.
That makes sense too. That's a good point. Actually, I didn't go through that, but I think in general, I agree with you on the mileage and what does he have left. I do see more ways for Costa to possibly get it done, but I think this is just going to be a decision for Costa.
Yeah,
and you're right. Probably a split. Good
fight nonetheless. If you get a draw, if this fight goes to a draw or no contest, you know why. The MMA gods are fickle creatures. Speaking of MMA gods, one man I'm going to call an MMA god. He might not be the best, but if you ask me to pick one fighter that's like just MMA, I'd pick Ion Cutelaba. Light heavyweights, Ion Cutelaba +150 versus Ibo Aslan. We mentioned him earlier, -180. Cutelaba, I mean, talk about vets. He's been up and down. He's been everywhere. He's fought champions, title contenders, gotten KO'd people, been wrestled, you name it. And he's fighting a guy in Ibo Aslan, coming off that Cerqueira knockout we talked about, a few fights ago at this point. And before that pleasure man, got to bring up any chance I can. Play him in any chance I can now that he's out of the UFC. TKO'd him. Cutelaba coming off a win against Ibo Aslan, before that a loss, win before that, a loss before that. You know how it goes. Despite Iwan's like tenure in the UFC, pretty close in age. I believe they're like 2 years apart in age. This is your pick. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, you're going with the established vet to do Iwan things, or you're going with the new guy to do Ibo things?
So I already wrote down my pick. I'm going with Turkish Power here. Turkish Power, Ibo Aslan to win. And I am going to pick the TKO or KO. I mean, that's kind of the path I see to victory here. I kind of view the Ion Cutelaba kind of as a Johnny Walker here, in the sense of, what you're going to kind of get, what can easily happen to either of these guys, Johnny Walker and Cutelaba here, he's kind of becoming a gatekeeper, I think. And this is Aslan's chance to really prove himself. Can he get him out of there too and move his way up? He did look good in that, again, he was fighting Cerqueira, so you can take it with a grain of salt, but just how he came out and, dominated, literally, like you said, 50 strikes in 40 seconds or something like that it was. The only question is if he can't get him out of there, what's his gas tank going to look like? That's the biggest, red flag I would see. Can he go longer? Can he stop takedowns? Because that is something that I could see Cutelaba trying to do if he's getting in trouble here, is to take him down. And I think Ibo Aslan, he's a pretty solid dude. So I think he can potentially stop those and just maybe get some ground and pound and finish him that way too. So I could see it a few different ways, but I'm going to definitely take the Turkish Power here.
I'm with you. This is a hesitant pick, though. I mean, what you said about his cardio, let me read you through some of his past few. I'm going to leave out one, but round 1 KO, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Round 2 loss, Anton Tricali got rear naked choked. He got wrestled back in Brave, 5 years ago now at this point. And his round 3 win over Anton Tricali last year, he was pretty gassed in that second round. He lost that second round.
Yeah, it's a question mark for sure.
It's a question mark. The wrestling's a question mark. I'm picking Ibo, but if he doesn't put Ian out in, like, I guess the first round, I mean, Ian has done this before. He wrestled Devin Clark. He wrestled Ibo Aslan. He wrestled kind of Tanner Boser. So this is a very hesitant pick for me. Yeah. Next up, we jump up to the main card. Yes, this is right. This is correct. A debuting fighter on the main card. It's better than last week. Who was it? Delgado beat, I'm blanking, Connor Matthews on the main card last week. That was Connor Matthews on the main card. It's awful. But anyway.
Yeah.
Short notice fight. We mentioned it before. Julius Walker, 6-0, coming in here. Week and a half notice, I want to say. He is a guy who is probably the second brightest prospect on the card. You could argue first. Cougs kind of shine some light on him in our Prospect Watch episode. Yeah, he's coming in here pretty short notice against Alonzo Menifield, who is a fighter also kind of been up and down, a little more up than down recently. See that number 15, but he's been KO'd twice in a row. Yeah, twice, because he got KO'd real quick, and then by Carl Solberg, and then he got beat by I'm blanking here. The Russian. It's late.
Mirzakhanov.
Zman Mirzakhanov. Thank you. So yeah, kind of a weird one. I will kick us off here. Minus 218 kind of surprised me because Walker's a prospect, and Menifield is old. He's 37. Julius Walker's 28. It's light heavyweight, so that doesn't mean that much. I'm going Menifield, though. Walker, the short notice. I don't like short notice. I don't like debuting fighters. Walker's bigger than him by a good bit, taller and longer. Menifield's old, so, kind of why the line surprised me. But that being said, he's an established name. He's got that experience in the UFC. And Walker's last 2 wins, interesting. Bevan Lewis and Myron Dennis. I don't know if you were part of the friend group at the time, but Myron Dennis was beaten by our friend Tuco Tokos and to get into the UFC, actually. So any chance I get to mention Myron Dennis, I will mention Myron Dennis. But yeah, I'm going Menifield. Don't feel confident about it, though.
Yeah. So I actually am going to agree with you on this pick too. I had Menifield picked as mine on this one as well, just because of I do like the experience. I don't like the short notice here on a main card in crowd. Yeah, he's definitely, Walker's definitely bigger here, like you said. But Menifield, that guy he's pretty, I guess. How do you want to say it? Beefy. He hits hard.
He's a strong guy.
He puts a lot of power in his punches, and I actually think he's got really good, powerful kicks too. Yeah. I could see him working the leg kick there on him quite a bit, because I remember seeing Menifield's leg kicks. I don't remember which fight it was, but I think he was piecing somebody's leg up pretty good on one of the fights. It might have been, now that I'm pulling it up, was it Crute?
I think so. One of the 2 Crute fights.
Crute, it could have been. He might have did it to Jacoby too on his decision there.
Maybe,
too. Yeah. Because Jacoby's pretty long and rangy there too. And I don't, the Mirzakhanov fight, yeah, sure, he lost that one, but I don't take that quick, Carlos Oberg loss at all. I mean, Carlos Oberg's going to do that to a lot of people, I think. And Carlos Oberg actually is one of my favorites to possibly make a title run and get it too. I think he's got a great shot there at the light heavyweight division if he doesn't himself get hurt, because he's usually the one doing the damage. And he's, but back to this fight. So yeah, that loss there doesn't really bother me on that one too much. Yeah, the age bothers me a little bit, but the short notice is the biggest key thing here, in my opinion. I'm going Menifield for sure. I guess I would say for sure. I would say it is a questionable line, but Menifield's my pick. I don't know how I would see this one going though. Decision. Probably decision.
Yeah, just a weird one. I not super confident either way. Good to know about the Carlos Oberg though.
That would be he's one of my. When I first saw him fight, he was one of the dangerous guys that I could see moving, pretty high up in the light heavyweight division, if not getting there. Would he win? So that would be what? Jiri Prochazka, right?
Sorry,
one more time. Sorry, that would be
Jan Blachowicz.
Who's current light heavyweight champ?
Oh, champ Pereira. Yeah. I thought you meant
who's fighting. I think a great fight would be see Carlos Oberg versus Jiri. That'd be a good fight.
That would be a good one. I will have to watch that, and we'll definitely have to have you on for something on that UFC London card, because that'll be an interesting. I'm curious about that Jan Blachowicz fight for him.
Is Oberg fighting Jan next?
Yeah, Jan Blachowicz co-main for UFC London. So
yeah, that's coming up, I think, pretty soon.
Oh yeah. Alrighty, and next up, featherweight, Gian Silva versus Melsik Bagdasaryan. Silva, your big favorite, minus 575 against Bagdasaryan, plus 425. Silva's kind of the hot prospect right now. Went up in weight to beat up Drew Dober, which kind of shocked me at the time. Beat Charles Jourdain. Known greatest fighter of all time, Weston Wilson.
Yeah.
Coming back down to featherweight. Let's hope he makes weight and this fight stays together. Yeah, he's kind of the outside the top 15. He's the golden child in the featherweight division. Kind of taken a step back, in my opinion, from Charles Jourdain and Drew Dober to fight Melsik Bagdasaryan. I mean, Bagdasaryan is 3-1 in the UFC, but he lost to Josh Kulabau. He beat Tucker Lutz most recently 2 years ago, which is not great. So yeah, pretty big odds. I mean, this is one where he is. One might call this a setup. One might say, "Oh, this is going to be a striking fight," and Melsik Bagdasaryan is a former kickboxing world champion. One might just sit back and enjoy the fights, but that's not what we're here to do. It's your turn, Matt. Where are you going with this one?
Yeah, this is definitely a sit back and watch fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think, with that line, that's not really one, you can bank on Silva there at all. I think I am going to go ahead and go with the Fighting Nerds prospect here in Silva. I actually think this might even just go to a decision. Melsik's, like you said, a kickboxer, and he's really good at that and keeping his range. So can Silva close that distance or get a takedown or go for the sub? I think that might be his path to victory here. But it is one I'm going to pick Silva, kind of chalky there. But, if anybody has better ideas on the betting show, that would be something to listen to for that show. Because, Bagdasaryan is definitely worth a sprinkle of some, if you do feel like getting a betting world there. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with Silva on the pick here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Line's a bit wide, but he's the golden child for a reason. I always say if the UFC likes somebody, they're pretty good at matchmaking him or her. I mean, they know what they're doing. I think this is just a setup fight. I mean, the odds, even since we started recording, let me just hit refresh on my page here. They have jumped to minus 625 for Silva. So slowly approaching unbettable, but I'll save that for a later date. The pick is Silva. Yeah, good fight. I'm excited.
That's a fun one to watch, though.
Yeah. One that is very intriguing. Might not be the most fun, maybe depending on who you're picking. I'll say that. Catchweight fight of 140 pounds. Second of two catchweights. Number 9 ranked at bantamweight, Rob Font, plus 150 versus Gian Matsumoto, minus 180. This one was kind of surprising to me. I mentioned earlier Font was supposed to fight Dominic Cruz this card. Cruz is injured, retired, et cetera. And they pulled Chris Gutierrez, or they pulled Gian Matsumoto from his Chris Gutierrez fight.
Right.
To fight a week earlier on this card, or 2 weeks earlier.
Up 2
weeks. Yeah. Thank you. Matsumoto 6-0 prospect, in all definitions of the word prospect, contender series guy, won a few fights in the UFC. And Font's just a vet of all vets. I mean, he's main evented. He's been around the bantamweight division. He's coming off a win where he kind of just did this. It wasn't short notice, but Kyler Phillips was, is a prospect, and he beat him. And yeah, this is a huge step up for Matsumoto. I mean, I don't keep rankings myself, but if I did, I guess 30 spots up, maybe 40. I mean, bantamweight's pretty deep. From Brad Katona, who's a good fighter, but I mean, this is just such a big jump, and he's the favorite. This one surprised me. This one really surprised me. It's my turn to go, and I'm gonna go with Font. I mean, he's a vet. He was training for this fight, for this card too, specifically. I'm hoping he didn't stop training, but he's been training. I mean, Matsumoto's good. He's a grappler. He's a striker. He can do it all. But I think Font, power's the last thing to go. Font's a little old, but he's still got some power. He's He's incredibly knowledgeable. That little bit bigger than him too. I think 2 inches of reach. Yeah, 3 inches of reach and a few inches of height on Matsumoto. So yeah, I'm going with Rob Font here. I believe my first underdog pick of the entire card. Interesting. What about you?
Yeah, this was another tricky one just because of the movement of the fights and the bouts there and matchmaking. This will probably be so. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go opposite of you. I was already kind of leaning Matsumoto a little bit. Um, I'm just going to go with the youth here a little bit. I think he's going to keep his undefeated streak alive. Do I like it? No. Do I like the line? No. I think it's just going to be a Matsumoto by decision. It might be just by pure aggression, being the more active fighter in there at this. Now, Font, he's got a great gas tank too, I believe. So it's not going to be easy, but I will go ahead and go Matsumoto by decision.
Interesting. Weird one, I'll say for sure. I don't dislike the Matsumoto pick. I don't know. Maybe he has enough power. We've kind of seen Font get beat by power more than anything, but it'll be interesting. Next up, I don't want to spend too much more time on that one, to be honest. It's just a weird fight either way. Next up, your co-main event at middleweight, Brendan Allen, plus 240 versus, number 9 ranked Brendan Allen, plus 240 versus number 12 ranked Anthony Hernandez, minus 300. Brendan Allen coming off that loss to Nestorny Imvov in France. He was on a pretty good win streak before that. And he's fighting Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, on his own win streak, coming off that main event, drubbing of Michel Pereira. This is a rematch, actually, of a LFA main event.
Yeah.
Anthony Hernandez beat Brendan Allen over the course of 5 rounds. I think it was like 49-46 or something. Obviously, both guys have improved drastically since then. They're both top 15 middleweights. And yeah, pretty interesting fight. It's your turn. Yeah. I want to hear your pick first.
Yeah. Well, some of the group probably, a little mixed feelings on this fight, especially certain people in the group. I'm a fan of Brendan Allen on that. I think he's a solid fighter. But that last fight that Fluffy had against, you said, oh man, who was it? Pereira, yeah. And the way he went out there and won that fight, kind of sold me on him for a little bit. And when I say for a little bit, I think it's just going to be matchup dependent. But I'll definitely go with my pick of being Fluffy Hernandez here on this one.
Cover your ears, Will. I'm going Fluffy too. I think, the data's there. He won the first one. Allen's coming off a loss. This feels like a Fluffy thing. Odds are a little crazy for two guys who we've seen Brendan Allen in this spot before. Not Muniz. Yeah, Andre Muniz. He was a huge dog against, and he ended up winning in his first main event. Same kind of deal. Granted, Andre Muniz not turned out to be the best fighter, what we thought he would be, but we'll see.
This is a good fight. It could be a grappler's delight, actually. How this fight could go, especially the way Fluffy was all over Pereira there. So I am going to go ahead and at least say, how does this fight go? I'm going to probably stick with the decision on this one. Because Allen's hard to put away.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how this could go. Hold your ears, some of the people in our group, but I'm on Hernandez with you.
Yeah. Allen can make it tricky too. He had a pretty deep heel hook in the first fight. His best moment, if I remember, I watched this a few weeks ago, but they're both black belts. I think I think Fluffy's a black belt. I want to say he is. I know Alan is. Fluffy should be a black belt if he's not already. I mean, Anyway, fun fight. Grappling was light, or maybe we get a shitty grappling striking match.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Main event. Now, this is not going to be a grappler's delight. Maybe. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if it was. Number 7 ranked Henry Cejudo, former bantamweight and flyweight champion, Triple C and Olympic gold medalist. Henry Cejudo is a plus 220 underdog against number 8 Song Yadong. Cejudo has been off for some time, and he is coming off of 2 straight losses. He lost to Eljo and then Eljo's buddy Marab, 2 former champions, that is. He's old. I'll go ahead and get that out of the way right now. He is 38 years old. Wow. And he hasn't won a fight since 2020. Took that time off.
Yeah.
Tried to, tell the UFC, hey, pay me some money or I'll go away. And they're like, all right, see ya. And so he did. He's fighting Song Yadong or Yadong Song. I'm going Song Yadong because that's what's on the UFC website. But my apologies if it's the other way. Yadong, coming off that loss to Peter Yan, decision loss, close-ish. He is a pretty proven talent. I mean, he's only lost to the best of the best, former champions, former title challengers. And I think that this is going to be, I'm kicking us off here, or ending us here. I'm picking Song. Odds are a little crazy, but, Cejudo's old. Song hasn't really been wrestled, a little bit by Jan and a little bit by Corey Sandhagen, but he hasn't really been wrestled. I mean, he stopped Simon's takedowns. And Cejudo isn't that much of a takedown artist anymore. You get that old, you have that much mileage, your knees start to go. I mean, I wrestled 3 years in high school and did jiu-jitsu afterwards. My knees are starting to go at this age. And I think this is a Song win. Odds are kind of weird. Cejudo could win, could kind of just Cejudo all over this thing, but it feels like they're setting up Song for, a big fight next. You with me?
All right. So, I am with you on this one. I am choosing Song Yadong as well. I agree with pretty much everything you said. The mileage on Cejudo. Could he do it? Yeah. But I think, especially that last, it was a unanimous decision for Peter Yan, but I think it was a little close in there. And to me, Peter Yan's one of the more overall well-rounded fighters in all aspects of the game. So I think that fight kind of, to me on this fight, I'm leaning Song Yadong for the pick here. I think it could be a finish actually. Maybe a TKO. Again, it's just, is he going to get it done right away? I don't know. I mean, anybody can, but I think, like you said, just Cejudo might slow up a little bit in there, and I think that's when the fight will turn definitely a lot more to Song Yadong's way there.
It'll be interesting. I'm just looking right now. Well, the books have the under 4.5 at plus 145. They don't have a Yadong bet, inside the distance or anything yet. But if under's plus 145, I mean, I'm assuming the inside the distance is going to be probably even bigger. So that'll be intriguing. I like it. On the same page in all but 2. And those are 2 good ones to differ on, I'll say. Veretennikov, Vanderford, and Font Matsumoto, 2 short notice ones, 2 weird fights. I'll say that.
Those are the only 2 we're different on. Those are tough picks either way, I think.
Tough picks.
Otherwise, we pretty much agreed on everything else. So
that's the card. We got 2 more segments to go. Second to last one here. Last for this week. Non-UFC action this week, regional minute. This is going to be extremely short. I mean, Cougs broke down perfectly some of the best prospects, some of the best fighters. Go watch our prospects watch episode. I'm just gonna really quickly go through here some things I like this week that he didn't mention. One's got a fight card 9 a.m. Eastern on Thursday on YouTube. So if you like slacking off your day job and watching YouTube, I would do that. Jonathan Haggerty, featherweight championship versus Ruway. Jared Brooks, Joshua Paccio. Jonathan Haggerty fights kickboxing. Joshua Paccio, Jared Brooks, MMA belt. Ongla, friend of the pod, friend of Wells and I. Roberto Soldic in his first fight back since 2023. So it's been a while. Last guy to beat DDP. Shamil Gossanov. Kid Rotolo in MMA. That'll be interesting. Glossing over some of the other stuff here. Again, this isn't, I mean, prospect-wise, there's some great things, but I don't want to step on Cook's toes. This is great TV, isn't it? Oh, one thing Cougs did not talk about, because this is boxing, Saturday, noon Eastern, Beterbiev versus Bivol 2, boxing world championship, rematch of their last fight. Great fight, phenomenal boxing fight, top of the, pound for pound. You got heavyweight title on the line, Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker. You got some other names that even if you don't follow boxing and just, casually watch the top fights, you recognize a few. And it's during the day on Saturday, so that's wonderful. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. Go listen to our Prospect Watch episode. We're coming up on an hour here, Matt. I know you're a very busy man. I'll let you off the hook with one question for you.
Sure.
UFC Fight Night, Cop vs. Zombayev next week. You know the show. You watch the show. This isn't the greatest fight card, but I still want to ask the question anyway. Overall, I'm going to add an overall ranking since you won't be on next week's prediction episode, at least I think. Overall ranking from, a week and a half out, and your favorite fight on the card.
So, yeah, I know we were chatting a little bit earlier about it. Like you said, it's not a very heavy stacked card by way of big names there. The one I was looking at, at least the fight or the fighter, more or less of a fighter that I kind of want to see how he does and if he can continue to improve, would be the Haider Emil fight against William Gomis. That's a fight that, hopefully it's a nice striking battle there, but I think I want to see what kind of power Haider Emil has, and if he can put him away and work his way up, 10-0 guy, and see how it turns out. Yeah,
I like it. Great fight. Hopefully he makes Gomis interesting, because Gomis has been pretty boring. I'm going with Austin Lane. No, I'm just kidding. No, Austin Lane. Unless he's fighting like Francis Ngannou, that would never be my pick. I'll go Ricardo Ramos and Chepe Mariscal. I think that's going to be a great fight. Two guys who have been around the block, both coming off a win, both exciting strikers. I mean, Mariscal can kind of both of them can mix it up, let's be real. But, these guys have had a number of exciting fights, exciting knockouts, submissions, you name it. I mean, Ricardo Ramos has, 2 spinning back elbows, I want to say. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, 2 spinning back elbows. Or, sorry, 1 back elbow. No, I was right. 2 spinning back elbows. So that's a fight I'm most looking forward to. And that is it for this card.
Good.
Next week's episode's going to be a lot shorter. There are more fights, but I mean, I don't really care about half of these. So
yeah, that's kind of how it's looking on paper so far.
Yeah.
You never know. The way this card went, it might be half different by the time they get to it.
Maybe. For my sake, putting together these, the banners and the picks and everything. Let's hope not, but
yeah.
that'll be it. Thanks so much for coming on, Matt. First time on. It was great to have you. I mean, we'll have you back. It's, you're a knowledgeable guy. You make some good bets, make some good picks as we saw this week. So thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
And thank you for watching or listening. As we're pushing an hour, I'll go ahead and end it here, not say too many words, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.